Internet Denzians. First attempt at weird podcast streamy thing because you know what? I like talking to people and I discovered this doing all my streamy stuff, so I dragged in a good friend of mine to help me do all this. So, hi, I'm Mike. I'm a developer advocate at Logs.io. I'm even repping the brand today in my fashionable yellow shirt. By fashionable, I mean I'm going to make everybody blind wearing it. And being dragged into this mess of a thing is my friend Jim. Hi, Jim.
Hello. I am also rocking my company wares. There you go.
What? Hang on. Jump has swag.
You did not know that. Hello. I need to do the intro because no one will know what on earth I'm talking about. Hello. I'm James Seconde. I'm a developer advocate at Jump24, which is a Laravel partnered studio, also in Birmingham. And we have swag. Check out our swag. It's even cooler on the back. Look, there's a logo on the back as well, and it's in a less offensive colour than mustard yellow.
I'll have you know, this is not mustard yellow. This is blinding luminous.
Is that on the official design docs?
No. Let's not talk about that because I'm sorry, but yellow and blue, a great combination, but not when the primary colour is yellow and you're a big bloke. That's essentially being the amber light permanently.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the reason why you should probably persuade Logs.io to switch to black because, you know, black suits everybody. And also we're developers, so we need to wear either black or grey clothing, and usually the wardrobe is all the same, right? And so, because you don't have to think about it, because we have to have maximum cognitive load. unless you don't want to be like Mark Zuckerberg, which is presumably everyone, apart from the psychopaths.
If I was going to be wearing black, wouldn't I want to be more like Steve Jobs and obviously wear a black turtleneck permanently?
Well, you know, you're a developer. You're not a marketer pretending to be a developer.
Aren't we the inverse? Developers pretending to know marketing.
That's exactly true.
God, Jess.
Oh no, it's Jess here. Right, okay. So both of us are going to get abused gently.
Pretty much. Jim, don't you have the StreamYard open so you can actually see the chat?
Yeah, no, I do have the chat open.
Can you not see what she's called this colour? I'm now feeling like I need to be in a paper factory.
It's maybe it's just because I'm not logged in. If I just go onto if I just go onto Twitch, will I see it on there?
Yes.
Do I want to see it, or is it just casual abuse?
It's abusing me, if that counts.
Well, I mean, for any watchers, the Birmingham chain of command happens here, where Jess abuses Mike and then Mike abuses me. I'm sort of as the newest DevRel in the city. I'm the sort of at the bottom rung, so I basically take I take abuse off everyone, really.
I disagree. You do dole it out as well.
That's true.
If you didn't dole it out, I would be, yeah.
After at the end of our fusion in person, when we do events in person and the horrible virus has gone away, you can catch some of my sass in the pub afterwards.
On that topic, do we save it for the end, or do we just drop that whilst we're talking because we're talking?
That's a good point. So we do have a sort of a vague agenda of what we're going to be nattering about, and obviously fusion is on there. I don't know.
We can always mention it twice. There's no harm.
Multiple times. Go for it. You might as well introduce it because I am a new dad again. Not again, as in I'm a new dad the first time, but I'm
Jesus Christ, unlucky Jan.
That would have been too quick. I'm not hosting Fusion again because I'm tired enough, and I can get back onto Fusion and hosting it when like COVID goes away and I have a handle on like how to be a dad because it's quite demanding.
Handle on how to be a dad. I think you have to wait 18 years to see how the end product comes out first.
I know. I've been thinking that I'm going to bide my time a little bit. That you wait. There's going to be some magic moment after 18 years when you just wave goodbye on the doorstep and they go magically and never ask for money or food again. But don't think that's going to happen.
Hang on. I just had a thought. You could treat your child as agile, and the next iteration will be better.
No. How can we? You can't bring. I know this is technology off topic, but I'm not treating my own son as like an agile project with sprints. And in this sprint, my son will eat a different food.
That was beautifully well timed. Well done, mate.
I didn't actually have you open in the background there, and I just thought I'd killed you.
You nearly had.
Yes. So my son is I'm not treating his development progress as sprints at the moment.
Good. That's probably a good thing.
I think it will stay that way, to be honest.
Probably a better thing.
Anyway, tell people about Fusion and stop talking about being dad.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Right. So, oh God. Oh no. Right. First, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to deal with John's comment. I've also realized something. We are not showing our names, which I should fix.
I do have a name.
There we go. Because if you edit it, you can put your Twitter handle on it, and you can actually all that thing. Let's make us bigger, because we are the center of the attention here, of course.
Not that developer relations people really like that. Next. Okay. Right. So as mentioned, me and Jim are both involved in this thing called Fusion. It happens to be, it's a 3-pronged thing. We're only involved in essentially 2 bits of it, really. So they're a recruitment agency. They run developer events, and they also have to run workshops. The bit we're talking about specifically is the Fusion Meetup, which I think the best way to describe it is a mini conference on steroids. It's sort of a bit like that. I think that it's quite hard to describe because it's quite. I think that the format of it is quite unique in that it's in a conference space, and it's got amazing food from local Birmingham street vendors and things like that. And the topics are usually like maximum 30 minutes from usually like quite well established speakers. Well, actually, but also some that are sort of starting out, kind of a range. So it's like, I would say it's. When people ask me to describe it, I say it's like in between a meetup and a conference, because it sort of is, isn't it? Really.
Oh, yeah, I can't think of any other way to describe it. But yes, so and usually in the world before the pandemic, we would hang out and have random chatter, and there would be beers afterwards, where the hierarchy of abuse would be applied quite liberally.
I would. My mind's just got. I was going to have. Another thing also when I asked about Fusion a lot is I put on my profile. I'm a co-organizer of Fusion. It does give the impression that I sort of created this, and this has been built by Hannah Mitchell and Andy Jones for like 6 years or something, and I've been here like 5 minutes. So you know.
Oh no, I have the same problem. It's like
it's not my baby.
Aren't you the Hackference guy? Why did they create another one? I didn't. I'm just helping them.
Well, helping, but also I mean, your face and name is actually on the Fusion website, so you can stop pretending that you're not on the team.
What? I'm on the website. I'm double checking this.
You don't believe me?
No, I don't.
We've basically been press ganging Mike for ages. We're like, Mike, you basically co-run this thing with us. You should probably just be on the team. And seeing as Mike is never doing Hackference again, and I think he means it this time. If we do a Fusion conference, which we probably will at some point, that basically means that Mike has transitioned from Hackference to Fusion, which means that you have like less stress. You could just let Hannah get stressed instead of you.
You know what happens when Hannah gets stressed? We all get stressed.
No, she's happy. That's not true. She does the Jess Rose thing, which is like, there's a bloke on the internet giving me loads and loads of abuse, and he's being really horrible, but I don't mind.
Hang on, I finally found the website, because you know what? It took me forever to remember what it was called. Holy nutballs!
I think we asked you if you wanted to be on there?
I think I avoided answering the question.
So there you go.
Right. It turns out when dealing with friends, it's an opt-out principle.
Yes, it's like the nudge unit. When everything is just assumed, you need to specifically say when you don't want to be part of something. Like
Right.
a good example of something following you without you opting to exclusively opt out was I created the Birmingham PHP user group. I got stressed and took on Fusion and was doing too much. I handed it over to a company, and then I joined that company, and basically it's just come back, and I've not opted out of it yet. So I think my boss is just on the assumption of like, well, yeah, you're going to run this, right? I'm like, yeah, no, I should probably pick up my own user group again.
Oh, hang on. There's a question from Jess, and it's an actual one that we can answer in a meaningful way around the topic of what this is meant to be about. And it is, what the hell do we do to kill time online these days? YouTube. YouTube in my vain attempts to learn something new.
This question cannot be answered by me. I have a baby. I have about 5 minutes in the day, which I usually pick up a Switch and play Zelda, and that's pretty much it. Actually, that's not quite true because I did try and start a podcast, which I got one guest and lined up about 5 people that agreed to do a tech podcast, and then I found that I couldn't do that. That was true. You were, and also Jess, and also Nathaniel as well, and James Vickery, who might be on here, I'm not sure, and various others. It didn't happen.
I am press ganging Jess and Sil and Mr. Kingsley in the chat because, well, Kingsley is one of the smartest guys under the age of 25 I know.
The last time I saw you mention Jonathan was on one of your streams, and he was doing something ridiculous, and I can't remember what it was. It was reverse engineering some piece of like old technology or something. Was it to do with streaming or something, John? I can't remember.
Oh, he's done a whole bunch of them. Like I think the last one he was mentioning was a goddamned FPMG. Is it FPMG the chipset?
FPMG? Oh yes, I think this might have been it.
The bow tie with like reverse engineering an LED bow tie.
Because why not? This is why hackathon people generally tend to make much better developers in their journeys, as far as I'm concerned, because they have time to do fun stuff like this. And when I started out, I went on a symphony course in Vika, which is not as exciting as reverse engineering a bow tie.
The glow tie. Oh my God, I love the name of it.
The glow tie. Brilliant.
Oh, that is absolutely priceless. That's a keeper. That's officially a keeper. If that's available to buy, I want to buy with a glow forge, a glow tie.
So Fusion lineup, because I don't know, because you know probably the lineup better than I do.
I do not, because I was meant to have give myself time to double check everybody. So you know what? How you can do this bit because I think it'd be funny. You want to share your screen and Twitter stalk these individuals?
That sounds so ominous. Yeah, because at the moment I'm not organising. None of these are my speakers, so I can't be embarrassed, which is good. So let's make StreamYard do the fancy thing, shall we?
Right, give me a second. Yeah, you share the screen and I'll do all the directing thing. Let's put it StreamYard literally calls it a backstage.
StreamYard, right. Backstage, share screen, clicking all the buttons and learning how to do this right. Screen 1, should we share the right screen? And do that, and then let's move StreamYard out there. And then you see the screen. Hooray!
Other than the fact that you're... What the hell have you done?
Yeah, I shared the wrong screen. There we go.
Hey, there we go. Right, do you want to go number person numero uno, Zoe Rose?
Zoe Rose, I'm coming to stalk you now. That sounds really ominous.
As we have a Jess in the room, shall we just check, is she a family relation? Jim, What is your internet connection like? Because this is
I'll tell you what-
appalling.
I'll tell you what's not good. When streaming.
Right, buddy.
This is unusable right now.
Yeah, we have stopped that. You are now just streaming you. I will do the screen share because holy moly, that was
awful.
appalling.
I would like to add that I'm on a talk line that's 10 megabytes per second, and in about 2 weeks I'm going to Virgin, and with the fiber optic because it's so bad.
You're the one that picked today. We could have done it in the 2 weeks after you had an internet connection that doesn't sound like you were vomiting over a child.
No, time is short, so make hay while the sun shines.
Oh, Rose Secops. Wow, this looks really legit. Like,
I've got some security stuff. Cool.
Yeah, no, it's in actual like part of certain actual organizations that deal with stuff. It's like, interesting.
At Fusion, we only get professionals. I mean, I'm not a professional, but
hang on, they've had me monkeying around running their audio for years. I'm not professional.
Cool.
Okay, so we have Zoe Rose, who is Irish, it appears, and is going to be doing something on security because it turns out we weren't told what kind of security she'd be doing, as is useful.
Gerard Sands.
Right, let's go with Gerard Sands.
Oh, a subject dear to my heart. GraphQL. It's not. That's a joke.
I know him. I've met him, and we got drunk at a couple of conferences a while ago in Romania, of all places, obviously. He's actually a really, really smart guy. He used to be massively involved in Angular and the 1.0 to 2.0 conversion and stuff. So, and he is a fellow fan of progressive web apps and offline apps. So I'm actually personally going to find that ridiculously interesting.
That does look cool.
Yeah.
Stuart Baker is the next one. So Stuart Baker is not a tech speaker. He was going to talk at a different Fusion and couldn't do it, and now he can finally do it. I think he is from Mind.
Yeah, I'm getting that impression because there's a lot of Stuart Bakers.
the mental health charity. So he's going to talk on that. If anyone's attended any of the Fusions recently, you'll know in the last year we've rolled out a mental health track, which felt like a very sort of logical move to do.
Yeah, I think it's really important considering the last ever talk at the last ever Hackference was Jess Rose giving us a talk on mental health and saying no and dealing with burnout, and goddamn thank you, because that nearly killed me.
I think it seems, I don't know, with 2020, it seems more prevalent than ever before. The first thing that comes to my mind, especially as the company Slack has just been going off with the gaming chat, is I just thought the first and foremost thing that came into my mind was Cyberpunk from what's it called? What's the studio called? The Witcher Project Red. Project Red. And they said from the outset, Cyberpunk is going to be delivered on time, and there's going to be no crunch because we are the studio that are the goodies, and we're not going to murder all of our devs.
And murder all the devs.
And then look what happened. The same as it always does. And that is the video games industry, which is notorious for having extremely privileged fans who are quite know-it-all-y, and so they start jumping on people's backs about like, why can't it be delivered? And I know Unity, and it shouldn't be this hard, and things like mad things like that.
I know Unity, this shouldn't be that hard. Oof.
I did Snakes and Ladders in Unity once, and therefore I don't really understand why this game that's 250 gigabytes is taking 3 weeks later to ship. Chris Noring on Blazor. What is Blazor?
I don't know. I thought I'd wait until we were finished and then work it out.
Is it going to be one of those things like it's another thing that compiles from JavaScript?
I don't know, because
it's Elm 2.
It's a C#. Oh, that's the wrong thing. C# Blazor, because my old boss has been dealing with it, and
this rings a bell.
Build it's Xamarin.
I would say at this point, if I had to reevaluate my career and my technology stack choices, I would probably just go down the C# and have, because it's basically, this is WinForms, the new version, right? Or the new iteration of Xamarin, where I don't have to run, like, I don't have to choose between NPM and Yarn and have Webpack doing compile errors, and I'm not using Node VM, or am I using N, or any of the other 642 JavaScript problems, or I could just use this.
You say that, but you can put good money on this is going to explode because of Webpack errors just later.
Just further down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Well, at least that's not my fault. At least it's Microsoft's fault, because like their compilers like doesn't work properly. I'm like,
we can't blame Microsoft anymore. They no longer suck.
I know they've turned all nice and they do good things. Actually, having said, I mean, this is a really, really nice segue actually onto one of the topics that we've got, which I don't know whether you're about to mention, is the Apple M1 chip.
Yeah, this is I like when I listed this down, I didn't know if you were going to enjoy this conversation, because I personally feel it's going to cause merry flipping hell. Like,
why would I not enjoy it? I turned into a Linux user like 10 years ago.
Yeah, but you also absolutely and utterly hate your Mac. Like, sorry, Dan, he doesn't like it.
I do. Whenever I have to fire up Docker for a project, it sounds like it's about to take off. And also, I have to charge my MacBook at the beginning of the day, because when I run this particular project we're running, the battery runs down with the power in.
What in that? No, don't. No, we're not going down there. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
There's only like 15 containers. Anyway, so the M1 chip. Bear in mind, so like I'm an original, one of those original Mac fanboys during the Motorola years, right? The 68,
the PowerPC era,
and the PowerPC. My first machine was a Macintosh Performer PowerPC that was nicknamed a Road Apple, which was one of those cobbled together old like Power Macs they tried to make into a consumer line, and it just cracked. System error 9 or something like that, generic error. Used to get it all the time. Absolutely awful. But I was one of those System 8, System 7, System 8, and Mac OS 9. So in terms of having a chip in a PC that is like completely incompatible with everything, this feels like going back to, I moved to Macs and actually still love them when they moved to Intel. So now they're coming back off them. Like, this is going to cause like a compiling nightmare, isn't it?
Well, right. We had this with AMD. So a lot of open source software, Linux-derived compiled software, had issues with the AMD FX chips, and then Ryzen when it first came out, just because instruction sets are slightly different. So the behavior, even though they're both x86, the behavior under the hood is just a little bit different. That some stuff just goes bang. It's a thing. But they were still running x86, so it's just a recompile and a little bit of tweaking. This is a completely different chip architecture.
Yep.
That means, like, and Jonathan's pointed this out, the M1 does not run Docker right now. How in the hell, as a modern developer, I don't care what you develop, you could be developing server side software, mobile apps, front ends. You could be developing, Arduinos. You're still probably going to be using virtualization via some form of Docker agent or an equivalent, and it's not going to work. It's like, we're going to spend the next 2 years waiting for open source contributors or to be able to support this stuff, because it's a brand new architecture. They're going to spend months debugging.
People are going to get lazy and start porting Raspberry Pi stuff over because it's like an ARM chip. Reinvention of an ARM chip. I sincerely hope, because of that level of vendor lock-in that they've gone for, and it's a company that are famed for their vendor lock-in, which is weird considering with their next step move of moving towards more sort of open platforms with Darwin. I sincerely hope that gradually, like, I go to developer conferences and all of the MacBook Pros just gradually start getting replaced with like Dell like XPSs.
My shopping list is already an XPS 13 or a Razer Blade.
There we go. For balance, I'm not sponsored by Dell because I have an Entroware, and I do like that Entroware. It's really nice.
I used to hate Dell. Well, actually, no. Name one person who didn't hate Dell until they produced the XPS.
Well, my parents had a Dell, and it was, I mean, a stiff breeze would blow it apart. Really, brittle plastic everywhere, stuff failing.
Well, Jonathan's pointing this out. It means every Docker container is gonna have to go down this ARM kernel. The worst thing is, alongside that, it means that there's going to be people trying to write compatibility layers, because we already have enough of this compatibility issue between ARM and Intel on their x86. You imagine what it's going to be. Can you imagine what the Ubuntu crowd is going to be like with the kernel? Like, but it's not going to work.
You seem to be sort of making out that all the Ubuntu users are holier than thou.
No, I'm not, because I am an Ubuntu user as well. I just happen to have spent enough time reading the forums.
I've not read the Ubuntu forums since 2007, to be honest.
Yeah, it's that wonderful thing of the loud minority.
Yes, that's appropriate to the political landscape of the world right now.
We're not going there. We're not talking about that. That is not a thing.
Technology off topic. Let's talk about Trump. No, it's not talking about Trump. So this M1 chip, I don't. They're going to stick with it because it's far too late to back out. But I think it's going to cause them problems. I think they're going to their user base are going to. Well, one of their strongest user bases in years outside of the professional media kind of space is really, has been, they managed to just bag a massive chunk of the developer community. I think things like this it's just going to, I think it's going to drop off. And
the amount of people, hang on, you probably don't remember this, but when the 2015 Mac came out, the amount of people that hated any new generation of the Mac keyboard was high. So the second-hand market for 2015 Macs.
Oh yeah. I remember this. This is just before the butterfly keyboard set and the touch bar came in. Correct. I remember my the lead engineer of my workplace at that point needed a new Mac, and he specifically went out to go and find one of the old ones to buy it, because he was like, that generation of Mac, if they brought it out and put just upgraded like the Intel chip in it, and then threw some more RAM or like put an M2 in or something, he would have got it. Like, he would have said like, "Oh, I'd have bought a new one." But instead, that touch bar innovation was just hopeless.
But the thing is, I think we're going to have the same thing. This last generation of Intel chips, for people who work professionally on a Mac, people are going to slurp it up.
Yeah. I think really, sort of, the end of the day, that it's going to cause them problems. But I'd be interested to see what happens with it. In the other stuff, I thought this is kind of a. So I'm from PHP land, so I try to not skew this to be heavily PHP, but there are just a couple of things. I mean, it's only one topic, and also it's not the actual topic. With the topic about the Faker library is not really about PHP at all. It just happens to be a PHP library, but really the wider discussion is about open source maintenance. But have you got because I'm not screen sharing. Don't give it to me because it'll break. Have you? Should I give you a link?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm currently looking at I'm looking at the JavaScript version, because that's the one I use on a day-to-day basis for any of my seeding demos. It's
based on this is using for. I mean, it's incorporated in Laravel by default, and I mean, if you're going to start a Symfony project, you'd probably use it as well. It's based on Perl.
Chat. Drop it in the chat, and that means everybody else has it, and I can grab it as well.
I can. And then it has to be in the private chat. So, can you move it? Can you move it? Yeah. I'm not logged in.
That's fine. That's fine. Can you tell, ladies and gentlemen, that me and Jim have not prepared or planned this bit?
What do you mean? This is going really, really smoothly. It's based off. It says it at the end. Where was it? It was off Perl's Data Faker and Ruby's one.
Yeah. Yes.
And they all sort of, these kind of libraries generally, and the author mentions Python as well.
Yeah.
So what happened was this library which generates random fake data and is used in the PHP world to just, for all of your for seeders and stuff on deployments. Its author Francois Zaninotto said, right, okay, I'm pulling the plug on it because it served its purpose, and it's a pain to maintain. It's naturally, because of the openness of it. I can't even imagine what this library was like during Hacktoberfest. It's got 70 different localizations. He structured it quite well, but he structured it as a classic open source project of like a personal project, right? And at the end of this year, he's like, I've had enough of this, and he said, I'm not doing it anymore. And when he deprecated it and he pulled the plug, and so obviously that causes that's going to start making pipelines fall over from those at the JavaScript world seemingly probably have to deal with this like once a month. It's always left pad, but there was another one recently, wasn't there?
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was. And everyone jumped on his back. You're like, oh, you're doing this out of vanity, and you're doing this because you're. And originally, I don't think Francois actually wanted to write a blog post on this. But the uproar about it meant that he did, and so he wrote this article. And this article just said, this is why I've done it, and the reasons are entirely reasonable. He called the article
There's so many like blooming PRs still going. Jeez.
Yeah, because there already were. It was interesting that he actually says this in the article, but he explains one of the reasons why is that he's had his fingers burnt before, which is fair enough. He had an ORM kind of around about the Doctrine era and handed it over to a developer that he knew, and they absolutely took it apart, and it just fell apart. And he feels sort of personally responsible for it. And also the kind of pressure of having a library like Faker. He got approached by a computer scientist who I think probably a researcher at university, who said that Faker had the lowest bust factor of all projects they looked at, in that the maintainer had the lowest amount of activity, whilst externally it had the most activity out of most of the projects on the whole of GitHub. So that's, pressure-wise, that is a lot. So yeah. I don't understand why, if you say this is a pain to maintain, it's a nightmare, it's gone way beyond its original scope of what it was supposed to do. I've got 400 PRs. I can't review them all. I'm not going to keep on picking maintainers really, really super carefully. It's open source. I'm pulling the plug. If you want it, fork it, which is what has happened. But he got a lot of flack, and I don't know how justified that is. Can you think of you must be able to think of similar? There's so many incidences of this. Can you think of any?
No, because unfortunately, most of those incidences, the projects has just disappeared into infamy, or just And also, I really, really hate trying to think of these things on the spot. So, anyone in the crowd want to mention a comparable version? What's the point in having an audience if you don't rely on them for anything? But no. Thing is, if this was, say, a product or an open source solution, like an actual standalone binary, like a database or a programming language or some form of appliance-based thing, Nginx or something like that you could do, one of the ways would have been throw it up and hand it over to a foundation to make it, maintained by a collective group of people.
Yeah.
But this isn't an appliance or anything like this. This is a helper library. This is something that a lazy sod should be able to do themselves, but they rely on a library because it saves them a few days of having to write randomizers.
It does. It's got that sort of. It has got that kind of JavaScripty ecosystem feel to it, hasn't it? Where it's. I want a library that does this, and there always is, but that library itself relies on. It's got 500 dependencies, and then your tree becomes ridiculous. Yeah. And I don't think that Francois meant it to just be like a personal project that just turned into like suddenly this thing is production deployment of a framework. I wonder if he was even approached when it was, but he doesn't have to be. You know, it's open source. He can do what he likes.
Yeah, the joys of licensing,
which no one understands.
Well, they do, but they're usually called lawyers, and nobody wants to talk to them.
Your general person on the street, on the street, well, I say on the street, your general sort of developer, like what you do is you put MIT on this, and then it's fine, and then years down the line,
if it's for work.
I think that is something that is like an area of education that we need to get better at, of actually picking like, well, all of the open source, like all the open source licenses are all the same. No, they're not.
Okay, John pointed it out. The best example is the left pad one, because that's this exact situation.
I feel that there are differences with between Faker and the left pad. The Faker one is just by choice of its owner saying, I can't do this anymore. Left pad was the NPM Foundation's complete nightmare, wasn't it? Where they basically said, who is it that complained in the first place? Someone said
it was a corporation. Yeah, it was a corporation that was claiming copyright because NPM had the ability to claim copyright on names for repos, not the code within the repo. That was the ownership of the person who created it, but that namespace. So if a company existed and could claim the copyright on it, they could take ownership of it, of the namespace, and you transfer it. But in doing so, that broke the internet.
I think what's interesting is that happened in 2016, and we're still talking about it.
No, before 2016.
Was it 2016 or was it 2015? It was around about then. There were two things that happened in the same year. There was left pad, and then a couple of months after, was GitLab's infamous meltdown where a junior dev had been.
It was 2016. I thought it was like 2014, 15.
I win. And there was GitLab's complete meltdown because a new developer had basically been given the keys to the castle and did an RFRN, and it added a thing, and it went through the network and deleted the whole of GitLab's production, which is an astonishing feat.
That's fine. There was also the guy at AWS who accidentally deleted something off a production server, which took down DynamoDB, and as that's intrinsically glued into 90% of AWS's infrastructure, took out a certain set of AWS data centers. Taking
out data centers is really, I've done boo-boos, but
not data centers. It took out the applications on the data center, which essentially made the rest of the internet go.
I love that. Killing DynamoDB is that. That should go on your CV, surely. You know when you get that question in an interview, that question of like, okay, what kind of person are we talking about here? Are we talking about someone who's honest, or are we going to have one of these horrendous egos? What did you break? Yeah, I broke DynamoDB.
John was pointing out another one that made me was hilarious was when the S3 outage.
Yes. Yeah, this was working. I feel that it's quite an interesting one. That it's quite an interesting aspect that so many status pages are intrinsically broken because of the way they've been rolled out. And these are like status pages with big companies, and still they're static pages where no one updates them. And so everyone's like, should we check the service? I'm not going to name names, but Atlassian have an ability to just everything breaks, right? And then they're like, no, everything's fine here. And you're like, come on, man, just update it and say that it's broken. And it's probably
Atlassian's approach is everything is always broken until pointed out otherwise. Do I have that little faith in Atlassian? Yes.
Runs on Valve time. I like that.
Oy
Shall I roll out another agenda topic?
Let's move on to one that's slightly less digging down the historic pipeline of ouch.
Is that the official designation for it? The pipeline of ouch.
How else do you describe? Let's look at all the boo-boos the internet has felt and all the ones that make us giggle.
They're still funny, right?
Hang on. Jonathan wants to claim something as a title. Which bit? But let's move on. Whilst he's answering that, let's move on to the next one. Shall we do the DO one?
Yes, because I know, and also this will save all the listeners, and I can shut up because I don't know anything about this, even though I put it on there. Which was, let's talk about DigitalOcean's rollout of their app platform, because I'm surprised they didn't have one when I learned about it. Which I did ask.
Well, they kind of did. They had their open source community shared application space thing before.
Let's have a look. Are you bringing it up? I had a blog post that they wrote on it. To be honest,
I'm trying to find it. To be fair,
I was actually surprised that that DigitalOcean didn't have one. It seems kind of geared towards when they were rolling it out. I thought it was going to be one of these sort of AWS-y things where it was rolling out products everywhere. But it does look more of the sort of more along the lines of Netlify kind of. Like, or what's the really nice integrated one in Amazon? Is it Lightsail?
Well, yeah, Lightsail's just the simplified version of an EC2. How not to make your users burn in hell.
Which I love because I'm crap at this.
Is this the thing you're talking about, good sir? The app platform?
That's it. The app platform.
Ah, okay. It turns out when you just Google DigitalOcean app, it gives you a lot of stuff. Not necessarily the bit you're looking for.
Who would have thought? I want some information on the internet. I shall Google the internet.
Elastic Beanstalk, but working. It's more like Elastic Beanstalk without CloudFormation pain.
I mean, that sounds great.
All hail CloudFormation. No, all burn it. Burn it to hell.
You were doing something on CloudFormation recently. Was it on on one of your streams?
Yes. Yes. Don't remind me.
At Jump, we've gone down the Terraform route for this because CloudFormation sounds terrible, although I don't do any DevOps myself, but it sounds generally awful.
CloudFormation is fine if you know exactly what you're doing. The problem is the vast majority of us have no idea what we're doing with CloudFormation. And
can I just state for this, and I'm not going to drop the name of the body that did this, but for amusement factor, when a sort of pal of mine who's moved to Germany because of, I'm not going to say it, the B word, when he was speaking at a Fusion event, a one-off that we did, he joked about his role, and I gave it to another body that were advertising the event, and they actually took it verbatim because they didn't really understand developers, and they listed him as a YAML developer, which I loved. Hi, Pandelis. Pandelis is an official YAML developer. I love that.
To be fair, that is what a good percentage of my day feels like.
Just, do you have a tool that just constantly, like in an IDE, get like VS Code to just constantly every time you do one character on your IDE, it does like a YAML markup authenticator validator to make sure you got valid YAML.
No, but you know what? That doesn't actually sound like a bad idea.
Is it? I mean, you say you think it's a bad idea at first, and then it turns into like VS Code stories. I should have put VS Code stories as something down to talk about.
What the hell? VS Code stories? What the heck is that?
It's not. Someone made a joke, and I can't remember who it was, about when are we going to roll out VS Code stories because everything's a story. And it was a company that created a story section, and I can't remember what it was, and it was wildly inappropriate. And so someone said, introducing VS Code stories, where I do a commit, and then I have like a load of channel chat, and then we've got Slack integrations, and all of it just sounded ridiculous. And then someone obviously went out and made it.
Do you mean this?
There we go. That's it.
Oh, Lordy. Oh, God. Oh, no, we're not talking about that. That's not allowed to happen. No, this is like going, let's talk about HipChat and its relevance to modern development.
Oh, HipChat. But, I don't do tool shaming, obviously. HipChat.
I don't shame tools. I shame blatantly money-grabbing organizations like Atlassian.
Oh, political. So the target. So, okay, first of all, because I don't know, and you probably have a better inkling, the pricing for Dio's app platform. What do we think of that?
You know what? I don't know. I haven't seen it. Where is an example of? Oh, here we go. Starter, absolutely bagger all. I always like a zero instance to get started and learn. Prototype your app's $5 a month, but it doesn't actually tell you how much of your application you can have, how many instances. Interesting. Because I'm assuming this is essentially running either full-sized or micro containers for doing the job. And it doesn't tell you how many containers equals an application.
You're telling me that the docs were written by marketing and not by developer relations.
Well, it doesn't need to be developer relations, just somebody who actually goes, so now we know what we can build and what we can't. Because at this point in time, I'm going, am I allowed a database? Do I use a caching layer?
At this stage, when they angle it, they're angling it for signups to test it, right?
Yeah. Okay. So it says it, and Jonathan's pointed that out. Build static sites. That's a starter. So it's essentially Netlify. But I'm specifically looking at the basic one, where it says build and deploy dynamic apps. What kind, how, and how much are you allowed? It doesn't give any context.
So I asked on the DevRel Slack collective if there's anyone at Dio. If there is anyone at Dio, I'd like to talk to them about going a bit more in depth into the launch of the platform. That would be interesting.
Pricing for there we go.
There is you just have to scroll down.
Yeah, but it's also not associated with it. You have to click a button which goes, take me to more details.
UX.
Yeah, awful flipping UX.
API the docs.
Yeah. Okay. So it's essentially running the same process as Heroku. It's flipping Dio based Heroku.
And that draws a line underneath that one. Yeah. What did DigitalOcean launch today? They launched Heroku. Okay, cool.
To be fair, I'm not against that because essentially, since Salesforce bought Heroku, they have done absolutely nothing to improve the technology.
Okay.
Literally, the only thing they've been doing is making sure that they don't allow you to build old, broken containers. So if the container is now out of LTS, you cannot redeploy it.
I know from a while ago there were Heroku were trying to extend their outreach quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that made that. But if you're going to extend if you're going to sort of pour money and resources into programs and get some more outreach, then yeah, surely there needs to be some sort of product development. And I don't know how much product feedback they get from their DevRel. I mean, presumably they must be doing some, but. Okay, it's still interesting to play around with.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I think I may make a stream about this next week because it says here in their product app space, they've got a thing on the metrics, hourly and whatnot, and per minute. Now, if I'm running an application, I kind of want to know. Especially if I'm developing it and I'm actually just trying to see what the thing is, I want to know the information a little bit more quickly than hourly. So I'm wondering if I can glue in some of my wonderful employer to get some better perspective.
Always good to test it out and see how all of your products talk together,
or more importantly, how they all blow up together.
One this is what you get on your stream regularly, the joys of live streaming. One more thing before Jess has got a valid question on there, which is how on earth is anybody managing to live because of the levels of stress with everything? And the answer is when you have a baby, it's honestly every hour is different. So I'm just pretend that it's not happening. One other thing, because we talked about it loads, was what's it called? Statamic? What's that? Statics?
Yeah. I know nothing about this. You need to talk me through it.
Okay, cool. So if there's any URLs you need to show, send them and I'll put them up. But you need to talk us through it. Let's just paste it in. It's in the private one, so just throw it out to all the peeps. So Jack McDade, who is presumably he's the owner of Statamic. Let me just go to his website because it will tell me, which is extremely popular static site generator, possibly CMS kind of crossover thing. His website is an absolute masterclass of design. Statamic. There we go. So he felt the need to put this blog post out during the United States election saying, I voted and here's why. And he gave a full-on honest account of why he voted for who he voted for. And then was extremely surprised, stressed, and probably the response he got off this was probably quite terrifying. Of when you press the I want the internet sets on me. I'm going to press the troll button. It's going to be hard to take. And he got that response, and then Statamic, all of its user base started dropping off, and people started moving to rival open source products. That happened because he said that he told everyone that he voted for the Republican Party and Donald Trump. And this caused a massive fallout. So the talking point really, what he brings up here, he followed up this blog post and he said, I didn't expect, he even mentions in this blog post, if you have to cancel me and cancel culture, and this is a thing that gets brought up all the time. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because for other kind of leading names in our field, such as Uncle Bob Martin, and outside it, like J.K. Rowling, is this new phrase of cancel culture. So his business and his tech stack suffered massively because he told everyone how he voted. And I don't understand it, because if I went out and said and tell everyone I'm for LGBT rights, or I'm extremely liberal, or I'm extremely conservative, if you tell everybody what your feelings are, people are either going to love what you say or hate what you say. So why don't you just not say it? I don't get it. It's a hot potato, but
I'm genuinely scared to talk about it right now, because this is where technology, for all of its faults, is meant to be unopinionated and logical and systematic, because that's what we build. We build code. You give it a set of instructions and it does stuff that follows those instructions. This isn't that. This is subjective and entirely down to the individual. Now, the problem is, do we punish the technology because of the individual?
That is the question, isn't it? I personally would try and separate the two, but also I can understand why people would go no, because this isn't 10 years ago where if you said I voted, like in the UK, if you said I voted Conservative or I voted Labour or I voted Liberal Democrat, if you did it 10 years ago, you probably wouldn't get that much of a response, and you'd only get it from hardliners. If you talk about it in the highest voting, politicized trash fire that is the current United States election, surely that is the one time that you're like, I think I'm going to be quiet about this one. With something that is such a hot potato that no one wants to touch it.
Yeah,